Andrew here, and I need you to stop what you are doing right now. I am serious. Close every other tab. Put your phone face down. Give me 15 minutes of your full attention, because what I am about to walk you through today is going to fundamentally change how you understand the silver market, who has been buying it, and why they did not want you to know. For years, they called us conspiracy theorists. The anchors on CNBC laughed from behind their teleprompters. The investment bankers dismissed us at cocktail parties. The regulators who were supposed to protect the market pretended we did not exist. They told you silver was a relic. They told you gold was a pet rock. They told you the Federal Reserve had everything under control and that the price of silver was set by free and open markets. Every single word of it was a lie. And today we do not just have a theory. We have something much worse for them. We have their own words. It is Thursday, February 13th, 2026, and while the entire world is distracted by tariff wars and inflation data and whatever celebrity scandal the algorithm is feeding you this afternoon, a document dump has quietly detonated across encrypted corners of the internet. We are talking about the Epstein files, but not the files you are thinking about. Everyone is fixated on the flight logs. Everyone wants the names. And yes, that matters. That is justice. But buried inside those terabytes of data is another story. A financial story. A story that the mainstream press is terrified to touch. Because it turns out Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were not just running a blackmail operation. They were running capital. Managing portfolios for some of the wealthiest and most connected human beings on the planet. And when you trace what they were actually buying with that money, when you read the private correspondence, it validates everything this channel has ever said about silver. Now, before I go any further, 75% of you watching right now are not subscribed. That needs to change in the next 5 seconds. Hit subscribe, drop your thoughts in the comments so I know who is actually paying attention, because the algorithm already buries this channel and the information I'm about to show you is not the kind of thing that stays accessible for long. Let me show you what the smartest criminals in the world were doing with their money while they told you to buy treasury bonds. A series of private emails has surfaced between Epstein, Maxwell, and a senior French financier identified in the correspondence only as Bernard. These emails date to the early 2010s, right after the 2008 financial collapse, right when silver last touched $50 an ounce, and what they contain is a level of market sophistication that will make you rethink everything you thought you knew about who understands this metal and who does not. In one email dated November 2011, Bernard is advising Epstein on portfolio allocation. This is not television. This is not a public interview designed to herd retail investors into the wrong trade. This is the elite talking to the elite behind locked doors with no cameras rolling. And what does Bernard recommend? Does he tell Epstein to buy the S&P 500? Does he tell him to trust the dollar? Does he recommend government bonds? No. He tells him to buy silver. And then he explains exactly why. I need you to hear these words carefully. Bernard writes that he is fully convinced a squeeze is possible if one can take delivery of 100% of the futures contracts. Let that land. A squeeze is possible if one can take delivery. 15 years ago, the financial elite looked at the silver market, examined the paper leverage, calculated the ratio of paper claims to actual physical ounces sitting in the vaults, and they did not see a market. They saw a fractional reserve system with a fatal vulnerability. And Bernard identified the kill switch. You do not buy the futures contract to speculate on price. You buy it, and you demand the physical metal. Because if a whale stood for delivery on 100% of their position, the entire system would fracture. But it gets better. Or worse, depending on which side of the trade you are sitting on. Bernard provides a price target. Remember, in November 2011, silver had just crashed from $50 to $30. Every financial outlet was screaming that the bubble had burst. They were telling retail investors to sell and never look back. But what was the elite whispering in private? Bernard writes that he believes silver's inflation-adjusted value is $150. $150. That was the number circulating in private jets and Hamptons mansions, while television told you silver was finished. Now think about what that means in today's money, after the trillions printed for COVID, after the bailouts, After the national debt hit $38.56 trillion, if $150 was the real value in 2011, the inflation-adjusted equivalent today is north of $500. And they were not just talking. The leaked trade logs show Maxwell executing massive buy orders, line items for First Majestic Silver, an accumulation of 3 million units. Why First Majestic specifically? Because Keith Neumeyer is the only CEO in the silver mining industry who has publicly fought against price suppression. Maxwell knew this. Epstein knew this. They were not buying paper promises. They were acquiring the miners, positioning to control the source of supply itself. This obliterates the narrative that people who understand precious metals are fringe eccentrics. The most connected human beings on Earth, individuals who held leverage over presidents and prime ministers, were silver stackers. They were betting against the dollar. And most critically, they were betting on a delivery squeeze. Because Epstein understood something fundamental about power. Real power is not leverage over people. Real power is autonomy. He knew the fiat currency system is a control grid. He knew that if your wealth exists as digits in a bank database, governments can freeze it, courts can seize it, systems can lock you out. But if you hold physical silver, if you hold gold, you exist outside the matrix. And he knew the system was mathematically doomed. He could see the debt trajectory. He could see the derivative exposure. He knew the music would stop. And he wanted to make absolutely certain that when it stopped, he was holding the only asset that cannot be printed, confiscated digitally, or defaulted on. One final prediction from the correspondence that should make every hair on your neck stand up. Bernard writes that the gold-to-silver ratio will likely fall below 20. Right now, that ratio sits near 60. To reach 20, silver would need to outperform gold by a factor of 3 from here. If gold holds at $5,000, silver goes to $250. If gold reaches the higher range targets circulating among institutional analysts, silver goes to $600. This is the wealth transfer of the millennium, and the elite were positioning for it 15 years ago, while they told you to buy index funds. Now here is where this stops being history and becomes an emergency broadcast. Because the squeeze that Bernard predicted in a private email in 2011 is no longer theory. It is now official government policy in the world's largest silver market. We need to cross the Pacific. We need to look at Shanghai. Because what just happened there makes every word of that email look like prophecy. The Shanghai Futures Exchange has implemented a new delivery allocation policy for silver, confirmed by Shanghai Metals Market Reporting. Starting from the last trading day of February 2026, any market participant who does not hold a specific government-approved hedging quota will have their position limits automatically adjusted to 0 contracts. Not reduced, not delayed, 0. Do you understand what that means? If you are a speculator in China, you receive no silver. If you are a family office trying to protect generational wealth, you receive no silver. If you are a private citizen who purchased a futures contract believing you could take physical delivery, you get nothing. You will be force settled in paper yuan that Beijing is printing by the trillions. The door between fiat currency and hard assets in China has been welded shut for every human being the state considers non-essential. There is only one word for this: rationing. In a functioning market, price resolves shortage. Supply gets tight, price rises, new sellers appear. But China is not operating a market anymore. China is operating a command economy preparing for strategic competition. They are not allowing price to tell the truth, because a silver price of $200 per ounce would signal vulnerability. It would tell the world that the second largest economy cannot source enough of a critical industrial metal. So instead of letting price clear the imbalance, they are rationing supply, reserving every gram exclusively for entities Beijing deems strategically vital. The solar panel manufacturers, the semiconductor plants, the defense contractors, the EV factories. These hold the hedging quotas. Everyone else has been classified as non-essential and locked out. And the inventory data explains exactly why they panicked. Shanghai Futures Exchange silver warehouse stocks have collapsed from over 3,000 tons in 2021 to approximately 350 tons today. That is an 89% drawdown. The vaults are nearly empty, and instead of allowing price to rise and attract new supply, they locked the doors. Think about that signal for a moment. The most liquid physical delivery market on the planet just told the world its cupboard is bare. They know that if 1.4 billion Chinese citizens decided to convert even 1% of their savings into silver, the entire industrial supply chain would collapse in hours. So they preempted it. They banned the public from the delivery window before the stampede started. And this is not the only restriction. On January 1st, 2026, Beijing implemented stringent export controls on silver, placing it under an approval-based licensing regime that mirrors the controls China previously applied to rare earth minerals. Only 44 companies were authorized to export silver during 2026 and 2027. Exporters must demonstrate minimum annual production of 80 tons and meet strict financial capacity requirements. You do not ration something you have in abundance. You only restrict things that are running out. You only guard things that are vital for national survival. By implementing zero delivery domestically and rare earth-style export controls internationally, China has effectively nationalized its silver stockpile without ever using the word nationalization. Now, while Beijing slams every door shut on one side of the Himalayas, another giant has risen on the other side. And this one is not defending. It is attacking. India imported over 7,000 metric tons of silver in 2025. That is roughly 225 million ounces, nearly a quarter of the entire world's annual mining production absorbed by one country in 1 year. And they did it while prices were rising, not falling. The total import bill hit $9.2 billion. Silver prices in India nearly tripled in rupee terms during the period, from about 80,000 rupees per kilogram in early 2025 to above 243,000 by January 2026. Normally, when prices surge, Indian demand contracts. Indians are famously price sensitive. Not this time. This time they did not buy the dip. They bought the rip, and they kept buying. The ETF data makes it even more staggering. Indian silver ETF inflows tripled historical averages, reaching nearly 20 billion rupees per month. Major fund houses including SBI Mutual Fund, Kotak Mutual Fund, and UTI Mutual Fund had to temporarily halt subscriptions because they could not source enough physical metal to back the incoming capital. Read that again. Mutual funds stopped accepting money because there was not enough silver on Earth to match it. And when these ETFs purchase silver, they are legally required to hold the physical metal. Every unit of Indian ETF demand removes an actual bar from the London bullion market vaults or the COMEX warehouses. LBMA silver holdings dropped from approximately 31,000 tons in mid-2022 to around 22,000 by early 2025. The metal that came back did not restore liquidity. It went into allocated accounts, locked. The free float, the silver actually available for purchase, kept shrinking. So now you see the tug of war that the global pricing mechanism cannot survive. On one side stands China, terrified of running out, rationing domestically, restricting exports, locking every door to keep their remaining silver inside. On the other side stands India, terrified of missing out, importing thousands of tons per year, draining London and New York vaults, kicking every door down to get more silver inside. And trapped in the middle is the paper price that says silver is worth $77 today. This cannot hold. You cannot have the two largest populations on Earth, 2.8 billion human beings combined, fighting over a geologically finite resource, while the paper market pretends it is abundant. And here is the thread that ties everything together: the dead criminal's inbox, the panicking government in Beijing, the billion-person buying frenzy in Mumbai. It is all the same thesis. It has always been the same thesis. Bernard told Epstein in 2011 that a squeeze is possible if someone takes delivery. He thought it would require a single billionaire whale. He was wrong about the mechanism, but right about the math. The whale is not a person. The whale is India. India is taking delivery of millions of ounces every month. They are not rolling contracts. They are not accepting cash settlement. They are putting silver on cargo planes and removing it from the global system permanently. And China's zero delivery rule is the exchange admitting that Bernard's thesis was correct all along. Delivery is the kill switch. And because they cannot survive it being activated, they disconnected the button. The squeeze is not approaching. It is executing in real time. Now look at the technical picture that has been building for 45 years. In 1980, silver hit $50. That was the left rim of the cup. Then came a 30-year decline. In 2011, silver hit $50 again, the right rim. For the next 15 years, the handle formed, consolidation, weak hands shaken out, and now the breakout is confirmed. Silver surpassed $100 in January. It hit $121.64 before the correction to current levels. When a technical pattern takes 45 years to complete, the energy release is not linear. It is exponential. Conservative projections place the measured target at $300. Inflation-adjusted projections using Bernard's own methodology place it well above that. This mirrors the 1970s gold cycle precisely. Gold moved from $35 to $195, crashed 50%. Media called it dead. Then it went vertical to $850, an eightfold move from the correction low. Silver's surge to $121 was the initial impulse. The pullback to current levels is the mid-cycle washout. The next leg, if pattern holds, does not grind higher. It reprices overnight. The kind of move where you go to sleep with silver at $85 and wake up to $200 and exchange halted for limit up. So here is the only question that matters right now. If Shanghai has already locked the door, how long until New York does the same? How long until the COMEX declares force majeure? How long until your bullion dealer posts a sold-out notice and tells you delivery is 8 weeks out, then 12, then indefinitely? It happened in China overnight. One announcement, one rule change, 0 contracts. The metal was available on Monday. On Tuesday, it was gone. Do you believe the United States government will be more transparent? Do you believe they will give you advance warning? You are in a race right now. You are not racing against other retail investors. You are racing against India draining 7,000 tons a year. You are racing against China locking its entire public out of the delivery system. You are racing against the ghost of a strategy that the most connected criminal in history was executing 15 years ago. And the finish line is the last available ounce of physical silver, at a price anywhere near today's numbers. The smart money said in 2011 the real value was $150. Adjusted for everything that has been printed since, the real value today is $500 or higher. The 45-year chart projects multiples of that. But the number on your screen says $77. That gap, that canyon between price and value, is the opportunity of a lifetime. And judging by the panic in Shanghai, the expiration date is not next year. It is not next quarter. It is now. If this connected dots nobody else is willing to connect, hit subscribe. Share this with someone who still believes the markets are free and fair, because the evidence from a dead man's inbox, the policy of the world's largest industrial economy, and the buying frenzy of the world's largest democracy are all screaming the same thing. The paper price is fiction, the physical shortage is fact, and the window between knowing this and being able to act on it is closing faster than anyone expected. Stay sharp. I will see you in the next one.